bar or communities where there's not enough lawyers is allow the students to work off their student loans by working in those communities. Now, you would have to speak to the province about this, and I think you could make it manageable where people are racking up huge debt going to school, to law school, and they could work off that debt essentially by working 5 years in a community that has only 2 lawyers or 1 lawyer or no lawyers or what have you. And after that period of time, they would be debt-free on their student loan, but also maybe they would just stay in that community. In any event, you benefit the community, you benefit the students. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Now, I'll just note that the webinar was set to go until 1:30. There were 2 more questions. I proposed to ask one of them, and there was one additional question that came from the audience. That's largely a yes or no question and could be answered quite briefly. So I'll throw it out there for agreement of the candidates and the speakers, whether they're okay to go over for a couple minutes to answer one question and then this additional question from the audience. I don't hear any opposition, so I'll go forward. And so the final question that I was going to ask is on the question of whether older, more established lawyers should be expected to ease the costs for younger lawyers with things such as law society fees. Should, for example, more older lawyers be paying more than younger lawyers? And I'll throw that out to Monica Goyal to start.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. I had actually, there was a Law Times has a great forum. If anybody hasn't checked it out, they should check it out. But they've been asking the venture candidates questions over the last month, and one of the questions was about law society fees and whether they were too high. And one of the what I had put out there was that there should be a gradient fee schedule based on year of practice. And I guess that the consequence of adopting something like that would mean potentially that there is higher fees for people who are who have many years in the practice of law. I think, though, in general, our law society fees, the quantum of it has to be revisited. I think it's a barrier in general for people who have small practices, who are solo practitioners. So I think in general I'd like to see that the quantum go down, and in the interim I think what would be a great solution is to have this gradient fee schedule based on year of practice, or maybe work sharing arrangements and stuff like that.
Thank you, Monica. And Mitch Kowalski, what are your thoughts?
Well, the Law Society, I think there are some efficiencies that need to be looked at with the Law Society, because I don't believe it's the most efficient organization out there, and I think it really considers the fees of the membership to be a bottomless pit, that they can just continually say, hey, we need some money, we'll just jack the fees this year, and it's no big deal, yada, 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 and this is how we get to a situation where people are starting to push back. So I think there has to be there has to be some will on the part of the benchers to tell senior management of the Law Society, hey, you're not getting any more money, and we have to look at all the programs and everything that we do on a value for money basis and determine whether or not we can be doing things, whether, number one, we should be doing these things, number two, whether we can do them in a more efficient manner so we're not burdening the membership. With respect to how you set fees, the difficulty is with setting it by year of call is that there are lots of lawyers who have years of call in the 90s or 80s or 70s who really aren't making that kind of cash that can afford to pay double or triple what first year lawyers are paying. And maybe you go to a system where firms, or based on income, and do people want to reveal their income to the Law Society? Maybe, maybe not. But if you did it on an income basis, that to me is a little more palatable to say that lawyers making tons of money, they will pay a higher fee because they can afford it, whereas people who are not, wherever they are in the province or whatever year of call it are not going to be burdened with higher fees. Thanks.
And Susan Hare, your thoughts?
Thank you. I agree with the speakers who have spoken before me, but I also I think as well that I mean, we have to maintain fees that are reasonable. You know, we do need, Law Society I think does need fees to do what it has to do under the Law Society Act and under rules, but I think that they have to take things into consideration. And in my time at Convocation, each time costs are discussed, the members fees are at the forefront. They know that, you know, I know, and the other benchers know that you know, that's a concern of the profession. I mean, we all have to pay them, and so I think it's something that, but it has to be kept in the forefront of benchers' minds. And I mean, they could look at some things like, if you article students, can you get a lower rate? Can you get an exemption, or, you know, can your rate be a little lower? I mean, those kind of things. How much pro bono do you do every year? Can, you know, your rates be lowered by things like that? But no, I think we have to be vigilant. I think the word is vigilant, and I'm glad the issue is raised. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. So what I'll do now is I'll turn it over for a fairly brief commentary from Omar Hare-Deyye and Catherine McKenna on that question of, I guess, a sliding scale for younger lawyers. And just to the three candidates who are speaking, there's one other question that came from the audience, again from B. Mavison, about the idea of another additional law school in Ontario. And so it's a simple yes or no question. Do you support the proposed Lakehead Law School up in Thunder Bay? So so think about that. Again, that's a yes or no answer, and I'll turn it over to Omar Hare-Deyye for his commentary on the issue of a sliding fee schedule for younger lawyers.
So on the first issue of the Lakehead School, I'm just going to say maybe. That's probably, you know, as expected. I'm not going to give you a yes or no. I think it should be accompanied by a reduction in seats in the other law schools. I think the urban-rural issue in terms of legal services is something we do need to address, but we also have to be considerate of how that's going to impact the profession as a whole. Similarly, I think if we have more established members of the bar who are paying higher fees, I think the effect of that is that presumably members who are not as established, such as articling students or new calls, are paying less. And given that they generally are not going to be making as much money and their role in the field is a little more tenuous, that's not necessarily a bad thing at all for us to be considering.
And Catherine McKenna, your thoughts on the idea of a sliding fee schedule?
I mean, I haven't thought about the issue enough. I mean, I think, you know, that's an interesting idea. I want to know more about the financial impact. And you know, I think one thing to also consider is maybe you look at people who are doing work in the public interest, or people who are maybe starting out as sole practitioners, where, you know, maybe it's tougher and it's more an income. It's more about what income they're making. In terms of Lakehead, I mean, I think that we do need to be looking at getting lawyers that are going to go outside of the GTA. So I think it's, you know, in that sense, it's not a bad idea. I agree with Omar that, you know, we need to be figuring out articling, though. We can't just keep on having more graduates and not thinking about how this is going to play into the bigger issue. And I don't know whether we'll have a closing little speech, but my point is that there's a real opportunity now. We know we have the graying of bar. We know that we need to you know, ensure that we have an equitable profession, and we have people that care about these issues, including people that are, you know, running for bencher. I had one, Robert Wadden. He's a new guy running for bencher, and he was really interested in the issue and called me up. And we have deans that care about the issue in law schools. You know, all of these people are part of the solution, the Law Society as well. I think we're all smart. We can certainly find a solution, but I'm concerned that people are just going to ignore the issue and simply say we need to generate more articling positions, and then nothing happens.
Thank you, Catherine. And so for that final question on the idea of a law school at Lakehead University, I'll turn it over to the three bencher candidates. So it's largely a yes or no question. Do you support the proposed law school at Lakehead? And I'll start with Susan Hare. And so if you want to answer that and just any, I guess, very brief concluding remarks, go ahead, Susan.
Yes, wholeheartedly. I support the new law school at Lakehead. I think it's an exercise in innovation and in a diversified practice of law, a changing practice of law and recognition of that. So I think it's very important in terms of developing all those things we've been talking about, diversity and innovation. I think that's where it'll happen. So I do support it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Monica Goyal, your thoughts?
I actually don't think it's an easy yes and no question answer. What I think, the other issue that's happening in Ontario is people are studying law outside of Ontario and then coming back here and looking to get licensed in Ontario. And I think that Lakehead could also, it seems to me that there is a demand for legal education, and it seems to me that Lakehead can, pick up some of this, these people who, feel like they have to go outside of Canada to get educated, that it can serve that need. But then the issue comes down to the articles. So if we are graduating more people, then we have to revisit the articling program. And in closing, I just say, I just hope you vote in this particular election. I think it's important. And of course, I hope you vote for me. I think I'll bring a fresh voice to the convocation, and hopefully somebody that people can approach, feel that they can approach and talk to about these issues.
Thank you very much, Monica. And lastly, I'll turn it over to Mitch Kowalski to answer the question of a law school at Lakehead and some brief concluding remarks.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. I'll be a little more firm. I cannot support a new law school unless we get articling sorted out. We're not doing students any favor by creating more spots for them in the law school, but not allowing them to practice because we haven't done our job, and it is the Law Society's job to ensure that they have articling positions. So that unfortunately is the reality of the situation. In my final thoughts, let me just say that I think you've heard that throughout a number of the speakers here, that is well past time for change in the Law Society and how the Law Society is perceived and how it operates, how it deals with the membership. And so we need fresh voices. I'm a fresh voice. I have some really interesting ideas on my blog, kowalskiforbencher.blogspot.com. You can Google Kowalski for Bencher if you can't find it. You can follow me on Twitter at MEKowalski. On Facebook, search for Kowalski for Bencher. Join the conversation with me. I'm answering all the questions that come on that board, and I ask for your vote. And let's change this profession. Let's really do something interesting and really cool in Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. So that's a wrap. That deals with the questions and the comments from the bencher candidates, as well as a few additional speakers we had. So just in closing, my name is Glenn Kous, the editor of the Law Times. We've been speaking with Monica Goyal, who is in Montreal but is a candidate in Toronto, as well as Mitch Kowalski, who's in Toronto, Susan Hare, who is another bencher candidate based in